Does your technical documentation sound too wordy? Is it inconsistent and sound different depending on who writes it? Does it feel like something is wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it? Today is your lucky day because Document Right has the solution you need. In this video, we're going to be looking at Vale. Vale is an open source command line tool that enforces your editorial style guide. It's a linter for Prose. A linter for programming languages like JavaScript and Python catches errors and stylistic issues. That's the same job performed by documentation linters like Vale. It is a great tool for making your documentation sound right. And it ensures consistency, especially when you have many writers on your team. So let's get started using Vale. In this video, we're talking about using Vale and Visual Studio Code. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on getting started with Vale. In part 1, we covered how to install Vale on your computer. We also looked at using Vale in the terminal and with GitHub Actions. I highly recommend that you check out part 1, especially if you don't already have Vale installed on your machine. So we are in the website for Visual Studio Code, and you can download Visual Studio Code for your operating system. It has a Mac OS, a Windows, and a Linux version. So you need to download this and then run the installer as you would with any other application. As we already saw, I already have Visual Studio Code. So we're gonna go ahead and install the Vale extension. Okay, so in order to install an extension, we go to View and then Extensions, or you could type in Control-Shift-X or Command-Shift-X on a Mac. Okay, so here we get a side menu showing various extensions. So we want to type in Vale. And you can see here, if you click on it, we have the official Visual Studio Code extension for Vale. So you want to install this. Alright, so we successfully installed Vale on our computer, and what we want to do is to close VSCode, and we want to reopen it, but first let's go to Explorer. And in Explorer, we want to make sure that we are in the Vale boilerplate directory. So remember that project that we cloned using Git. We want to go into this directory, and you want to right click and open with code, which is VSCode. Right? If you don't see that right click menu item, you could come here and select open folder, and then navigate to the Vale boilerplate folder, and that will open it as a folder. You'll see all the files of the Vale boilerplate project in this Explorer pane. Okay, now we need to configure Vale to use the settings that we needed to use so that we can make use of it in VS Code. So we'll click on File, Preferences, and click on Extensions. That's going to bring up this menu with our extensions. So we want to search for Vale. And there is Vale. So you want to click on this little gear icon here to manage settings, and then click Extension Settings. Okay, that opens up this menu with these different extensions. So you want to make sure that this core use CLI, you want to make sure that this checkbox is checked. And down here where it says Vale CLI config, This is an absolute path to the config file for Vale, right? So we want to go to Explorer, and we are in the folder for the Vale boilerplate. So you want to click up here on the address and just copy this address. So that's what you're going to put here for the path to the Vale config, right? After doing that, down here where it says Vale CLI path, you want to just type in Vale like that. And these same settings, you want to make sure that you come here. We're on the user tab. You want to go to the workspace tab, and in the workspace tab, you want to make sure it has the exact same settings for as before as the user. So down here, we put the path to our project, and we type in Vale down here. Okay, those are the settings that we need. So now we need to restart VSCode. So you can just close VSCode, go back to Explorer, open with code, and our settings have been saved. As you can see, our settings are there. So now when we open the readme.md, you'll notice that we have this yellow squiggly line here and this red squiggly line here. So this is Vale actually making corrections. So it's telling us here extremely is a weasel word. Remember back in the terminal, it told us exactly the same thing. And here it says is repeated on line 27, which is exactly the case. Is repeated on line 27. So this is how you can use Vale in VS Code. So you can actually write your documentation in markdown and have Vale make corrections for you or suggest corrections on the fly as you go. That's it for part 2 in our Getting Started with Vale series. Join us next week in part 3, where we look at using Vale with third-party style guides and creating your own custom rules. If you'd like a free PDF summary of this video, you can download it using the link in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. See you in the next video.